Part 2! This is Comics Corner. You're watching Tech Color Muck. Blah, 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 blah. Previously. It turned out Agumon is pregnant. I'm very happy for him. Oh, also, I went over my first 5 favorite LBGTQ comics characters. And you should go watch that video to watch me ramble in 30 minutes and go off on segues about how the way Bendis had Bobby from X-Men come out bullshit. Again, fully supportive of him being gay. I just don't like the way he acted like bisexuals don't exist when that's not how that works. That's not how any of this works. But I ranted about that enough last time. Number 6. As I announced last time, for realizing shit, this video had gone on 30 minutes. That's the danger of doing videos vlog style when you don't have a computer to edit at the moment. Leslie Bean. Yes, that's an intentional pun. She didn't start off as the most serious character. From the comic Short Pact and Dumbing of Age. Dave Willis is fucking awesome, and I will do reviews of his works at some point. Dumbing of Age will probably come sooner, because despite being his latest work and being an ultimate universe containing every character except one, even though you made characters who were previously just one note or entirely personality-less works, I don't get why you're doing that. But I digress. I've drifted off enough during the course of these videos. And I'm counting both versions of her simply because, unlike another character from the Dumbing of Age who's later on, but that's because, unlike the later version, these two are fairly similar, with only their life experiences being radically different. Leslie started out in kind of an awkward way. You see, Robin's one of the main characters. She's loud, she's outspoken, and she was pissed off, and she was annoyed that one of the other characters that she had a crush on turned out to be gay. For the record, I love Ethan. He's a great character in both universes. There's just a lot of competition for this list. And for the record, Dumbing of Age has a fuck ton of great gay characters. Just good on you, Dave Willis. Back to Leslie. So Robin started dating a woman because she wanted to make him jealous. It was stupid. She called her my lesbian, and eventually Leslie sort of became a sidekick, having an unrequited crush on Robin until a point in the strip. Basically, long story short, Robin, on a sugar high, once became a congresswoman and used her giant pile of funds she got from not really having a lot of morals in the position to buy a house for her and all her friends, putting it in Leslie's name. But then when Leslie got fed up with basically being a platonic girlfriend to someone who apparently didn't want a future with her, she decided to leave, putting everyone in a precarious position. Then Robin had a talk with Ronald Reagan. Yeah, he's a recurring character in the strip. They became a couple, and we got to actually fill in Leslie's personality a bit more. That's why it's the backstory in the Ronald Reagan. No, seriously, he's a character. I love Short Pact. I seriously do. From great jokes about Batman to cloning Ronald Reagan to capitalize on 80s nostalgia. But yeah, Ronnie, in one of the most beautiful moments I've seen in any comic or comic strip, just basically makes Robin see all the little moments they had together that she's bi. There's no reason to deny she's bi till the day she dies. So their relationship grows, and now we can actually talk about Leslie as a person. I had to tell you that story so I could get to this story. Sorry about that. But then we learn Leslie's backstory. She was married once. Naturally, she was in the closet. Realized that. Eventually realized she was gay. Had her while her husband was a nice enough guy, her parents turned on her, turned their back on her, and she moved. Eventually finding Robin. I've told all that story, and I can tell more about Leslie. Leslie is a goddamn nerd. She loves Star Wars to death, Back to the Future, and in the new universe, get to that in a second, Steven Universe. Which, as you can probably tell, is a big fuck yeah in her corner. But she's just also a very driven person. At the toy store, when Robin hires her at the toy store she works for, despite being a congresswoman, because she likes sitcom hijinks. I mean, I can't blame her who doesn't. She quickly rises in the ranks, and by the end of it, she's a manager and is basically the second person in charge. She's incredibly good at her job, incredibly likable, and and motivated. She's kind, she's sweet. Her and Robin have good chemistry, and she quickly became one of the main characters, and I loved every minute of it. She grew from a nucleus of basically being a quick joke character to being one of the most well-written of the cast, with a great backstory, and great bits and pieces to her character that I do not have all the time to go into, especially after spending 30 goddamn minutes on the first half. She's great. Now for what I mean by the other universe. See, Dumbing of Age is basically the ultimate universe, or version of Dave Willis's previous universe, which had a bunch of sci-fi stuff. Previously mentioned, one of the other leads of Short Pack, Mike, had been brought back from the dead by a Martian cloning tube. As you do. And they fought aliens, and we'll cover Mitsuwaki once its current run in a year or so when its current run ends, or what I mean by that is they're currently David Willis is replaying the strips, likely for the Dumbing of Age. Dumbing of Age is also a high school AU, well, call it, instead, with a bunch of freshmen, a few sophomores, and every damn character he's ever used, as I mentioned before. Leslie kept her about the same age as Short Pack, but is now a teacher, or a mentor. I didn't even realize it was her at the very first second, and then it hit me. But here she gets a lot more character stuff right off the bat. Yeah, she's kind of relegated to the sidelines at first till she gets her own storyline where she tries to romance this version of Robin, who, rather than be in the closet because she never realized she was bi until Leslie is in it because she's a hardcore Republican, and early on you just want her to go into a cornfield and never return. But story for another time. She's also the gender studies teacher. Incredibly likable. We get to see a good portion of her personal life. Get to see her as a nice, compassionate person who really cares about her students. And I will say she's slightly the superior version, though the original Leslie is still awesome. Two women, same name, same personality, same level of awesome. Wherever she is, Leslie Bean rocks. And now for number 4. Daisy. From the comic Giant days. Which, as you can tell, is a trend here, since this is kind of my gateway to a lot of great stuff I recommend. Seriously, every comic on this list so far, instant recommendation. And Giant Days is no exception. It was also my gateway into John Allison's Scary Go Round universe, which is just massive, has a lot of continuity, and I'll give a retrospective at some point. Giant Days is a piece of that. Basically, after the original run of Scary Go Round, to make a long story short, John Allison created a second spin-off after his strip Scary Go Round in his first spin-off Bad Machinery, a hit in its own right and something really excellent that ended recently. Though the characters are carrying on the new Scary Go Round story, so it's not the end, it's just he's done with that labeling. I'll get into more in the retrospective. The point is, afraid because the spinoff wasn't taking off, he created a second one, Giant Days, where one of the main characters, the most popular scared around Esther DeGroot, went to college. You know, like most spinoffs, A Different World, that Blackish spinoff, Saved by Bell, the college years. Only one of those doesn't exist yet. One of those is terrible. And one of those is a show I really love. I think you can guess which one's which. Though I will admit, college years is so bad it's good. And I just took the guesswork out. But yes, Daisy. Daisy's one of the main characters. Alongside Esther and cynical, smoking, sullen, but ultimately good-hearted and quick-witted. It's Susan. Daisy is a naive girl from a very small town who with a giant and wonderful afro. She's also my favorite character, though really there's a lot of great characters in Giant Days. And I recommend it. Well, I did say it started off as a spin-off. The first 3 issues kind of drifted, came out, and then eventually Boom came by and was like, John, you want to make a series out of this? It's like a full mini-series that eventually became an ongoing that's still going today, and despite a slight dip in quality, I still recommend. And still brightens the first comics week of every month for me. So yeah, back to Daisy. Early on, she starts to discover she's a lesbian. She gets a crush on a girl and discovers she doesn't like her back. Well, it didn't get a lot of focus until the second year, i.e. after about 10 or so strips after the whole storyline of her having a crush on a girl is resolved. Where she gets a steady girlfriend in Ingrid, who's her entire opposite, a loud, obnoxious party girl. But I'm not here to talk about Ingrid. I'm here to talk about Daisy, and Daisy's awesome. In short order, she basically becomes the sanest one in the group, often trying to pull them back from being total idiots. Granted, she gets pulled back too, like during one episode and since I binged the show once with my mom, it especially the sweet spot for me. She gets obsessed with Friday Night Lights, starts imitating both Coach Taylor and Tammy, and the Tammy imitation is hilarious both because she gets drunk and because she once says, when I was your age, I'm a year older than you. Yeah, this is a great strip. I can go on great moments with her. But she basically becomes the sane one while still maintaining her cheerfulness, optimism, and her you best not fuck with me when she actually gets mad. Which a jackass archaeology professor with a high opinion of himself does do at one point. She's awesome. She's 80% hair. And she's a character who's very obviously, from what I'm talking about, near and dear to my heart. She might even be my favorite on this list. Do I consider her the best character? No, but it's because she kind of came out of the box fully formed. Formed, and these top four are also just really fantastic. Top three. I'm just a bit tired. But I'm still getting this done. Is that right, Invisible Panda? Yeah. Now I'm done with that bit. Daisy Wu. She's a great character. She's goddamn amazing. There's just not a lot to say without just quoting great moments from her. Though there's one line that just came to mind where there's a selection at the school and she's talking about how it was great, like in America, where George Bush triumphed over his father, George Bush Sr. Yeah, the comic's British, takes place in Britain, and so does the Scary Go Round universe. Or as John Allison himself calls it, Scary Go Round Cinematic Universe. I'm just not calling it that strictly because they're sadly not a real Scary Go Round Cinematic Universe. Seriously, companies, get on that as we get to the next one on the list. I got one more silver dollar. I got something. I am decked out in leather and got a computer. I'm not going to catch the midnighter. Well, this is primarily about the new 52/Rebirth version by Steve Orlando. The original isn't bad either. The Midnighter is basically Batman if Warren Ellis created him. And he was gay with Superman outside of fan fiction. No, seriously, his partner Hyperion is basically Superman. He is created in a thing called The Garden, long story short, and was basically part of a secret and not at all ambiguously gay duo for evil jackass shadow directors Harry Bendix to use. They're eventually found. They're eventually incorporated into his team Stormwatch, which is now being ran by someone who wasn't a giant dickhead, and eventually became part of the Authority. The Authority is an Infamous comic. I haven't read the Infamous parts. I'm not a huge fan of Mark Millar, and while he has produced some good work, Old Man Logan, outside of the Hulks Have Eyes, is a fairly good arc, despite some of his shortcomings. And Ultimate Fantastic Four, granted that also had two other great creators helping him on it, is pretty damn special, and I'll get to that eventually. But to my distaste for Mark Millar eventually too. But under Ellis, he was basically just awesome. He's basically Batman if he had some superhuman strength and a fight computer in his head that allows him to literally think 10 steps ahead of people. He is goddamn awesome no matter the universe. Or even if Mark Millar rubbed his wang all over him, he's still great. And he was taken to new heights and is one of the only major gay superheroes in the DC universe. That number is climbing with Aqualad on Teen Titans and the Ray on the Justice League of America. A book I highly recommend, by the way, that's also by Orlando. But basically he has the same shtick, though sadly I don't think he actually fights Batman. Because that would be just too damn awesome, and we are just not ready yet. But yeah, and while he does kill, he also he kill sometimes. It's more out of necessity. And he's also clearly fucking unstable, so it's not treated as an entirely good thing by the narrative. He also had broken up with Hyperion, though they do patch things up by the end. And so there's that. But his solo series and its follow-up by Steve Orlando are just comics perfection, and he himself is. Just an utter badass. He uses his fight computer, his natural smarts, and is just sheer, I'm going to beat the shit out of you, you giant, horrible asshole, just to help save the world from the horror he was created in. The Midnighter is one, and as mentioned, he's gay. I mean, obviously, or he wouldn't even be on this list, but unless he used to be a woman, or just didn't like sex in particular. But getting off track. But it's, again, treated normal. Yeah, he's gay and has a sweet bitch and Macklemore style haircut underneath his leather mask. But he's awesome. And yeah, I get it. The Authority are seen as a bad part, and I know I'm getting back to what he originally was, but I was just more under Mark Miller. Under Warren Ellis, they did kill people, but the people they killed were a bunch of marauders from another dimension, a being that was apparently God, and a bunch of supermen basically made in mass production to kill a bunch of people. They weren't killing. To me, well, I don't think superheroes should kill, and I definitely don't like the 90s and some certain superhero standard of kill them if they're better. I do think that in the right, if you have to kill a villain, otherwise he's going to do something really terrible. It just depends on the hero. That's a subject for another day, I'm sure. Point is, despite killing sometimes, Midnighter is fucking badass. He's awesome, he's well written, and he's number 3. Number 2. And we're going back to college. Now we're going back to Coming of Age. And we're talking about Dina. Now, unlike the last one, I'm not talking about the previous universe. The previous Dina is almost an entirely different character. And while Dina was revealed to be bi in Coming of Age, it doesn't come up at all. And even if it did, she's just not that great a character. Basically serving as the nagging girlfriend who, for one of the main characters, basically dated her because the woman he actually wanted to go out with wouldn't go out with him, and just remember that storyline makes my head ache. The Dina here is somewhere on the autism spectrum. Dave Willis hasn't specified, but it's just more heavily implied. She has trouble with social interactions. She's heavily focused on dinosaurs. But she's just treated entirely sympathetically. Well, some people, she has troubles, but it's just treated as something she struggles with. She acts like a kid sometimes, but who doesn't? A good chunk of the cast aren't mature. Heck, one of them who does have some of his crap together and is a little more mature than others in some ways, has a itemized list of women he's banged or wants to bang. I'd say the girl who dresses up in a dinosaur hoodie and likes to eat cereal is far more mature than the dickhead who numbers women and then is stupid enough to brag about it and wonders why his list was hacked. We'll see where that storyline goes, and we'll talk about it in the distant future, since that part of the story is still in progress. Back on Dina, she is raised by 2 loving parents who are also not the most socially skilled, but are still good people. And it's just a great, well-rounded character. At first, she's kind of more in the background, getting one of her first sights of being roommates to character Amber, who gets a lot more focus. Yes, and her first major appearance is getting accidentally dragged to the beach. She's just a well done character. She's not the best with social skills, but she does try to improve as time goes on. The strip takes place in a very decompressed timeline. Like, it's October, late October at this point. The story had to start at least in late August, is. So only about 2 months have passed. How long has the strip been going? 7 years. That's how long it took Lucas Graham to write an incredibly shitty song they just released last year. But back on Dina, she's just a well-rounded character. A lot of what pushed her up this high is the arc Walking with Dina, which is entirely about her. And I'll talk about it more in full. We just get to see inside her how she works. And it really fleshes the character out from then on out. She doesn't speak much, but she's just incredibly well likable. And she also can be damn funny. Her introduction is basically just, turns out she was accidentally put under her roommate's door and then just casually slides it back. When she's guarding the door for her roommate, who she's a very good friend to and very protective, and the two of them do form have a very sweet friendship, especially when she hides her superhero identity. It's not a superhero comic, it just happens to have one in it. I'll explain later. We got one more after this. And I'd rather not this video be a 2-hour dissertation on why Dumbing of Age is fucking awesome. But seriously, it's free. You should go read it after this is done. And this does have spoilers, and I'm sorry about that. And it's had them really all throughout, but most of them are minor. Here, though, there is a little, so you may want to skip a bit. But yeah, on to the relationship part, which also helps her get out of her shell. Dina eventually ends up dating Becky. Becky is a pretty great character. She can be obnoxious at times, but she's still a great character. Becky is best friend. To make a long story short, Becky is friends with what was at the beginning one of the lead characters, Joyce. Both of them grew up in an oppressive Christian environment. Becky discovered she liked girls. She got kicked out. Her dad is an abusive asshole. Tried to take her home to reprogram her once he found out she was gay. So she fled to our hero to the school where our comic strip takes place. Tried to kiss Joyce. Joyce said no, but in a big character moment for her, which I'll go more in depth for, accepted her friend's homosexuality. Just overall, a fairly good arc I'm not giving enough justice to, but this is about the characters. So during a party, Becky admits she's attracted to Dina, which everyone due to seeing her as a child, because, well, she acts like one sometimes, to the point where, in a hilarious bit, when one character's sister, who's younger, visited, they both thought the other was she thought the girl was older, while the girl thought Dina was also a child. But Dina, in a great moment for her character too, basically just defiantly kisses Becky, declares that just because she's different doesn't mean she can't. She's not a kid. She can have relationships, and the two kind of start one from there. And they do talk about the implications that she's just a rebound, but by this point in the strip, it's fairly obvious it's a solid relationship. I also talked about it because some of the funniest moments come from that, such as when they're just spending some time in the room together, They're about to kiss for the first time, which is also very and her response is just overthinking it till she just says, "You will kiss me now." Becky's response is also golden. Huh, so God does answer lesbian prayers. Which, yeah, he does. He's awesome. Wears sunglasses and isn't a homophobic shit like some would have you believe. But I digress. Dina's a great, funny, well-rounded character, and she deserves to be number 2. And number 1 surprised the fuck out of me. The more I thought, Vanessa Cubbins from Something Positive. Something Positive is kind of a sister comic to the earlier mentioned Girls with Slingshots. I read Girls first, but parts of that synced, including Goop Cat, synced up better once I read Something Positive. Yeah, there's a cat that basically has no spine. He also got the cat from Girls with Slingshots pregnant at one point. And fun fact, Short Pack ended up getting one of the kittens they had. Leslie ended up getting one of the kittens. Like, seriously, up until recently, Something Positive during its 10 plus year run has got crossed over with tons of comics, tackled a lot of stuff, and just generally been a great characterized masterpiece over time. Evolving from basically penny arcade without referential humor, but still funny in its fucked up ways. Also a bit of self in there to that, plus really good characterization and character growth and stuff in their lives, also still just being hilarious and dark as fuck at times. Vanessa is the girlfriend and later wife of lady character Davin. She's actually apparently Davin, a cynical guy who's had life take a huge dump on him before she arrived. And Vanessa was planned to debut a few years before she did, with apparently a lot of this planned out, and unlike some early plans in the strip, like killing the main character, who's based on the author, but heavily altered, and just, yeah, that's kind of messed up. But back on point, Vanessa, the two forming a kind of adorable relationship. Vanessa looks at Davin, his friend helps set him up, and it just goes from there. Vanessa, like most of the characters in the strip, is incredibly blunt, hilarious, but she also has nice quirks, and not in the quirky rom-com, I like to throw ice cream all around and call it a fudge sundae